What's up, everybody? We are here with plot point 23. The protagonist takes action, action to rally. If you've been following, we've been doing the 27 plot point outline, also known as the 27 chapter outline. But today, we've been doing this for quite some time, and we're officially on plot point 23. The protagonist takes action, action to rally. So let's get into what that even means. And we have three things we're going to talk about today. First is time to take action. PP23 is what happens when the protagonist actually gets up and takes action to solve the problem created by the midpoint conflict. Remember, in PP22, it was more or less building that power within and getting to where they need to go and ultimately setting the stakes and the plan ahead, whether the plan is going to be complicated or it's just an idea to get things done. It is in PP23 where they actually take action on that specific plan and or power within. But more importantly, you got to remember what you want to avoid here in plot point 23 is two things specifically, okay? The first is doing too little, and the second is doing too much. What? Yeah, well, just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you're looking for just right. You know what I mean? So doing too little can make PP23 vanish before it starts. It feels too fast. That'll take away the narrative weight because we're not sitting in it. Remember, it's not the more information a reader knows, the more invested they are. It's the right emotional information and clarity. They need to understand just enough to know what's going on, but that includes what's to lose, your stakes, okay? Who these characters are and their relationships and connections to things, whether it's other people or the task at hand or even the MacGuffin. But the point is, if you move quickly through PP23, if it's just as little information as possible, what's going to happen is the narrative weight is going to vanish. Now, to be fair, in a film or a television show, you're going to get away with that. But we're talking about long form narrative, and in a book, you need to play on the page. You don't need fluff, but what I'm saying is a 3-minute scene in a show or a film is actually going to be about 800, maybe 1,000 words in a book because it ultimately is a chapter. All right. But like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, like I said, you're working to find the right balance. Just right. You know, that boom, right in the center. So the reason you're looking for that is because if you do too much, it can cause the opposite to happen. Act 3 slows down to a drawl that really kills the narrative momentum. And what I'm saying is, if there's too much information, if you're over describing things, if you're getting too specific of what's happening, if we go too deep into the internal truth of the characters, it's going to really mess with your pace and disrupt the way this specific plot point should feel. Remember, we're in Act 3. There should be a constant sense of urgency and momentum. However, we know that the first section of Act 3, which is section 7, is definitely going to feel high energy and then slow down to a despair. But it's in PP22 where we're now changing it and they're finding the power within. So everything needs to feel like it's moving towards something, but you don't want to go too fast. You still need to set the truth of the emotional weight that characters are dealing with. But I will say this. Remember that Act 3 should be focused on the climax to come. So everything about Act 3 should be about solving the problem created by the midpoint conflict. Section 7, which is the beginning of Act 3, should feel like the potential's there, but they ultimately fail and they're in a sense of despair. Section 8, which is where PP23 is within, needs to feel like it's more than possible, even though they still could fail, but they, the character, feel like anything is going to fix the thing. So you don't want to start creating side quests or side thoughts or slowing it down with, extra, what is it, where you're just thinking about that dread. You're just like, no, you want to keep it focused on getting to the climax. Because remember, the last section is all about the climax. So remember, Act 3 should be focused on the climax to come. All that means is that every subplot should be heading toward the climax, as should the central conflict. The point is this: the protagonist is taking action, but you want the narrative to feel like it's bottlenecking toward the final battle. All right? Remember, you want, even if subplots aren't directly connected to the central conflict, you still want to be summarizing, or not summarizing, finalizing and getting those subplots to a point where next plot point 24, the majority of subplots that don't elevate or influence the central conflict and or the narrative itself, you want to resolve by the next plot point. That doesn't mean you have to resolve every subplot, but it is better to get as much out of the way as possible, so the ending, the conflict, the final battle, and the conflict, the climax, I should say, the final battle and the main climax should be the attention of the end of the book. That doesn't mean that the very end of the book can't kind of clean up smaller subplots and stuff like that, but the idea is don't allow anything too distracting to be taking away from the final battle and the climax. So PP23 is bottlenecking things to and towards PP24. All right, number 2, action is relative. When you need to realize and reevaluate often is relativity. That's right, relativity to your plot, to the characters, and the pace of the narrative. So you never want to rush toward a climax, nor should you rush a climax. However, there's such a thing as too slow. Just because a protagonist takes action to rally doesn't always mean they go all in, head down, and shoulder smash a door down. All right. For example, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. We use this all the time. It's a great film and easy to watch. Scenes are quick and right to the point, and it focuses on the flow of the 27 plot point outline. Even though we are a long-form narrative channel, we do touch on screenplays and screenwriting because it is an area of my expertise. But also, it's easier to watch a film unfold and connect what's happening on screen to narrative movements, or in this case, the 27 plot point outlines. With that said, in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow and Elizabeth Swann are ultimately trapped on an island, right? And it is here in plot point 23 where Elizabeth Swann burns all the rum to create a massive fire, hoping James Norrington will catch sight of it, since the entire Royal Navy is looking for her. She literally says that in this plot point, because Jack Sparrow's like, "Why the rum?" And she's like, "Because James Norrington is, and the entire armada is searching for me, and they're going to see this fire. It's like 30 feet tall, right?" But what's actually happening in PP23 is that Elizabeth takes action. It's simply that. She's taking action to solve the problem created by the midpoint conflict. And you may be saying, "But Thomas, how is being tossed onto an island the problem created?" The problem is, we learned in the midpoint conflict that Elizabeth was not the cure for the curse. We learned that Jack Sparrow was ultimately still alive and trying to make a deal with Barbossa, but Barbossa cut him out of the deal. And William Turner was absolutely, without a doubt, the reason they can fix the cure or reverse the curse. So because of that, Elizabeth and Jack were betrayed and tossed onto an island to die. But if you notice, what's actually happening in PP23 is that Elizabeth takes action, but she's not fighting anyone. There's no war or battle, nor is she hanging by the neck from a rope. She's not being shot. She's not shooting anyone. It's the take action just means that they are making choices to fix the problem because they have hope within. All right. But none of the craziness is happening in that moment. In fact, in the scene before this, before she lights up the rum, she's just drinking rum with Jack Sparrow. And she's just trying to get him drunk so she can enact her plan. Because in PP22, she has the power within. She's not going to let the island and the fact that no one's coming to save them, the despair and the previous plot point from that, she is like, wait a minute, let me get him drunk. I think I have a plan. She's not really telling the audience the plan, but she as a character has a plan. And in doing so, the next scene is literally PP23 of her burning the rum. Because in PP22, they were just abandoned on the island and all hope was lost. They were in despair. Last time I was here for a total of 3 days before a rum ship came and took me. I bartered myself onto the ship and left here, but all that's gone because your boyfriend, Norrington Borrington, and his fleet have absolutely, without a doubt, taken that off the table. So we're going to die here. But it's here in PP22, she finds the power within, and she's like, let's get this guy drunk. Jack Sparrow talks about what the Black Pearl really is, it's freedom. And then ultimately, PP23, she's burning the rum. And she does. She knew if she could get Jack drunk, she'd be able to light the fire with the rum. And James Norrington Borrington would find them. And he does find them. It's relative to Swan's situation. Could it be a battle? Could it be a fight to the... And could death be on the line? Absolutely. Right now, it can be. It won't be the final battle. It won't be the climax. But there are tons of action films. For example, the Predator goes around killing everybody in The Predator, except for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who ends up fighting him in the very end, the final battle, and the climax, which is the... That's the main climax, where they set up the bomb, and he goes, and Arnold Schwarzenegger has to run, and he jumps, and he saves himself. All right. Well, to be fair, the final climax is when they're physically fighting. The final battle is Arnold Schwarzenegger shooting arrows and them fighting from afar. But once they get super close, that's the final climax. All right. With that said, let's look at the third thing. Victory now. The protagonist should often, if not always, win in PP23. Swan wins. She tries something, she takes action, she burns the rum, and she has victory because Norrington finds them. However, this victory shouldn't feel big enough to marginalize the final battle and climax of the narrative. Ultimately, her getting saved by James Norrington does not supersede or outshine the final climax in the film or the final battle where all the pirates are fighting and all the soldiers are fighting. There's a big battle, okay? What I would say is, the middle stone, think of this as the middle stone in a triple jump event, right? So ultimately the plot here in this moment is just doing the middle jump in a triple jump, all right? Where it is ultimately setting up everything they need to get to the final battle. So sure, they can have a win here, and should, but don't give them the big win yet. That comes in PP25, the final battle. PP23 is all about keeping the momentum going. I would even argue that PP26 is the big win. However, why I say PP25 is the big win is because, remember, your protagonist doesn't have to win in the climax. They can actually lose. So for an example, Gladiator, spoiler alert, PP25, he wins. He's beating the Commodore, right? Not the Commodore. He's beating Commodore. But in PP26, the climax, he dies from his wounds. But before he dies, he says, hey, release the senators and, Maximus, whatever. He starts talking about, what was really desired wishes of the original emperor. So the big win should come in a final battle. Either it looks like they're going to win or they defeat the thing, but the final climax can be ultimately a loss. They can die from their wounds. They can not get the girl or guy. They can, fail on getting the job. But they won beforehand before that happens. They realize, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the job for me. All right, so it's always important to think like that. Anyway, with that said, subscribe. As always, if you want to learn more about writing, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. And feel free to check out all of my other writing advice videos. More importantly, remember, you can absolutely comment and say, hey, Thomas, can you make a video on this subject? Or I saw a video on this and I'd like to go a little bit deeper into it. Or feel free to say, can I get some real-time examples? Because every Saturday and Sunday, I do live videos at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you don't know, Saturday is always educational and real-time examples, and Sunday is a Write a Book with Me series. Other than that, that's it. That's it. That's it. Any questions about this lessons or writing in general or your book, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer it. Please check out makeawritelefthere.com because you could see everything and anything I got, including my books. I have plenty of books on writing, but I also have books on how to be successful, and I have epic fantasy and noir books available through Patreon and Substack. More importantly, remember, if you don't know, I have a How to Write a Narrative series. It's a course, and if you're a member on YouTube, if you're a paid member on YouTube, you can watch those videos plus other videos. I have a bunch of member-only videos that are available, and also, obviously, if you're a member, you can ask me for a very specific video, and I will make it as soon as I can. More importantly, Substack and Patreon also allow for that series. So if you want to read my epic fantasy and noir books, you sign up to the Scribe tier on Patreon, and you'll also be able to watch how to write a narrative. And if you join Substack, you will also be able to watch the course on how to write a narrative. With that said, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. Yeah. Oh, remember to bloop that beard and bloop that like button. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. As always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.